There's a quiet kind of war most people never notice, not between nations, but inside the heart. It's the battle between who the world says we should be and who we were made to be. This is the story of Ethan, a man who did not realize how far he drifted until he looked back and could not find his way home. Ethan had everything that looked like success. He was 32, well paid, with a view of the city skyline and a circle of friends who lived for the weekend. His life looked perfect on social media, the kind people scroll past and quietly envy. But there were nights when he'd come home after a long day, toss his keys on the counter and just stare. No noise, no laughter, just silence. And a hollow feeling he couldn't explain. He used to pray before bed, used to sing at church, used to believe life had meaning beyond the next goal. But somewhere along the line, that faith had faded, replaced by deadlines, distractions, and noise. He didn't hate God, he just forgot him. One weekend, Ethan visited his parents' house. His dad was in the backyard repairing an old wooden gate. Ethan watched for a moment before saying, "Dad, I've got everything I wanted, but somehow I feel like I'm missing something." His father looked up, eyes gentle but knowing. "Maybe," he said, "you were trying to feel at home in a place you were never meant to stay." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" His dad smiled faintly. "This world has a way of making strangers forget where they belong." Those words followed him home that night, like a quiet echo he couldn't shut off. Over the next few days, he started noticing things he'd ignored before. How every conversation at work circled around money, competition, and who looked more important. How his friends laughed loudly but seemed tired when no one was watching. How even his own dreams felt smaller than they used to. One evening, walking home, he passed a small church. The doors were open and faint music drifted out. He didn't plan to go in, but something inside tugged at him. He sat in the back pew, head low, heart heavy. There were no crowds, no sermons, just him and the silence. And then it happened, quietly, unexpectedly. A line surfaced in his memory, something he hadn't thought of since he was a teenager. "Dear friends, I warn you as temporary residents and foreigners to keep away from worldly desires that wage war against your soul." He whispered it out loud, barely breathing the words. It was like a forgotten melody finally finding its way back. He sat there a long time, no tears at first, just a sense of recognition. He had been living like this world was home, while the real battle was happening inside him all along. The next morning, Ethan didn't wake up a saint. He still had bills, meetings, responsibilities, but something inside had shifted. He began making small, quiet choices. He turned down a few things that didn't sit right with his spirit. He started praying again before sleep, not for success, but for direction. He reached out to a church group he'd once belonged to, unsure what to say but needing to say something. And slowly, peace began to return. Not the kind you can post online, but the kind that lives quietly inside you, steady, real, unshakable. A few months later, Ethan visited his father again. They sat together watching the sunset. Ethan said softly, "You were right, Dad. I was trying to belong where I didn't." His father smiled. "And now?" Ethan looked toward the horizon. "Now I'm just passing through, but for the first time, I know where I'm going." Maybe you've felt the same. If you have, remember this. You're not crazy. You're just not home yet. We are travelers here, temporary residents, walking through a world that promises much but can't satisfy the heart made for eternity. If this story touched something deep inside you, take a moment to breathe, reflect, and maybe share it with someone who's fighting the same silent war. And if you'd like more stories that bring scripture quietly to life, don't forget to subscribe and join this growing family of travelers, walking together toward home.